It's time now to meet two very, very powerful influencers, the women leaders who push us and inspire us to be a little bit more every day. Hosting this conversation with these two powerful women leaders is an inspiring leader himself, Anand Chandrasekaran, Chief Product Officer at Snapdeal. Previously, Anand was the CPO at Bharti Airtel, and prior to that, the Senior Director for Mobile at Yahoo in the Silicon Valley. Anand is also known widely as the co-founder at Aeroprise Inc., which grew to become the most deployed solution worldwide for mobile service management, a company that raised $7 million in funding and was acquired by BMC Software. In 2010, Anand was named by the World Economic Forum as a young global leader. Please welcome Anand Chandrasekaran.
I think I was just joking earlier that it's a bit hard sometimes to identify with being a minority, and then you came into this room, and then if you're a guy, you have a very clear idea of what it's like to be a minority. I think it's a so. While Kiranji and Devjani need no introduction, it's really a pleasure to welcome them onto stage and have this conversation. The format we wanted to keep very sort of simple, informal. As Kiranji was saying, we're all really here for the audience, and so we are going to try to make it an audience participation panel as much as possible. And try and open it up for discussion and comments and questions. My goal is to really kind of try to get as many people to be involved as possible. So the goal of this panel is to really sort of cover the leadership journeys that the folks on the stage have gone through, and the impact that they've created, the challenges that they've gone through, some of the lessons that they've learned that entrepreneurs, leaders in the audience, both men and women, can learn from as they go through their journeys. One of the things that I feel really strongly about is I think oftentimes when it's talked about how women leaders have it hard, I actually feel like this topic sometimes very unfairly gets colored negatively, and I think to as much of an extent as possible. I think these leadership journeys are always hard. I'll be the first to say it's not easy being a man as well, so I think most of what makes these leadership journeys hard is the journey itself that people have signed up for, as opposed to whether they are male, female, can speak Hindi, cannot speak Hindi, etc., etc. Most of those sort of become, or one part of the challenge itself. But that said, we have two very inspiring leaders from very different fields who've really made it through a lot of this. So without any further ado, I think it would be great to take a few minutes to maybe have both Kiranji as well as Devjani talk about their journeys in their own words. And then we'll just talk informally about some of the points that they are covering, and then open it up for audience participation. Does it make sense? Okay, great. So who should we start with? Maybe we can start with Kiran. Yeah.
Well, just as I'm dying to hear you. What a delight to be back again with all of you. Each one of you contributing to social upliftment in your own respective ways by who you are, what you're doing, and what you're doing with what you have. On this subject, I went back to my research. As you know, I've not only been a practicing public servant, I've also been an academic in many ways. So therefore, I went back to women leadership. And it came back to the following conclusions, and they're repeatedly as conclusions. Let's look at the way a woman grows up in India today, not the way it was during my time, and the way the boys grow up. The boys grow up with a sense of survival. They have no choice but to make it. They had to make it, like Anand's You see, they have to make it, they have no choice. Women are growing up with choices still in India, because what are the choices they have? Is the choice the future holds for them. If they decide to settle with a intelligent, wealthy, capable man, they have a choice. Whereas men don't have a choice. Woman's capability or woman's professional qualities is not a choice for the men. Whereas it is a choice for the women still at the moment. You may agree, you may not agree. But therefore, when that's a choice, it's the way she grows up. Boy grows up with no choice. मुझे कुछ बनना है, मुझे कुछ करना है, मुझे कुछ दिखाना है, मुझे अपने मम्मी डैडी का काम आगे ले जाना है, मुझे स्टार्टअप बनना है, मुझे नंबर 1 बनना है. लड़की ये अभी नहीं कह रही है इतनी बारी कि मुझे ये कुछ बनना है, मुझे अपने कुछ कह रही है, majority नहीं भी कह रही. Therefore, my first M, I'm going to give you a theory of 4 M's, which has come from all my latest research. In fact, today's Economic Times, if you read, it's about women CEOs, what a small percentage still is on the board leadership. So my first M is the metal with which a woman grows up, a girl grows up, which means how much of metal has gone into her, how much of competitiveness has gone into her, how much of challenge has grown into her, how much of metal means actually iron which has gone into her, which has solidified her. So my first M, friends, is metal. Now, how are we grooming our girls? The kind of competitiveness, sports is very critical in this. Research is establishing again and again that girls who play sports, women who play sports, make it to competitions and interviews and top leadership much more because they've taken conflict, confrontation, failure and challenges much better. Number 1. So they don't take failure as a failure, they take failure as a sense of learning. So my first M for women's leadership, which is a challenge, in fact, not with her, but challenge for her parents or institutions, the way they groom her. For men, it is not. They grow. Everything is a contributes to them. Whether they play or not, they're competitive from day one. Second, my friends, where there's a turning point, even if the woman is grown up with a strong metal, very competitive, handle confrontation, can survive conflicts, what turns around is her marriage. The second is M. The second M is marriage. Now she might make a great choice, but what it turns out to be depends on the time. Time alone tells. So now marriage turns her around to if it's going good, they make it together as leaders, or she takes a second position, or they grow together. It varies from family to family. So marriage for women leadership, even if she's grown with metal, is very critical. The husband, the way he is on her right side. So second M, my friends, is marriage. And marriage which brings a baggage or assets. It could be his family. It could be a baggage. It could be an asset. Both. It could be a support system. It could be a liability. It could hold her back. So whereas that's not the baggage with the men. Men don't come with family baggages of the wife because it's considered independent of her. Whereas the woman comes with, takes another responsibility. So second M is very, very vital, my friends. That's a turning point of a woman who may have done the IMMs, who've done the IMTs, they've gone to Harvards, but finally when she gets married, she marries also a family. She doesn't only marry a man, but she also sometimes marries a family. Third, my friends, which distinguishes and creates a challenge for women leadership, which is establishing it again, is mobility. How mobile is she going to be? Is she going to travel the world over like the men do? Or will she restrict herself because the first factor of marriage will restrict her? Will restrict her because मैं जा रहा हूँ तुम रुको तो आपस में. So does she sacrifice her mobility? Because to top the world is very critical, is mobility. Mobility is the one which will put her right at the top of the world if she ought to make it to the Forbes. But sitting at home, being restricted to her own place of work is not going to give her that visibility. And fourth M is motherhood. That's a mother of all issues, is motherhood. Now you see that she may have had the metal, she may have had a perfect marriage, a very supportive marriage with a very supportive family. She may be even mobile, but her mobility comes to a knot when it comes to motherhood. Because this is not shared. This parenting is by and large in India still not shared, even the Western world over. That's why you see Germany, girls, women not producing. You see Japan, 75% women not producing. They don't want to produce children because they feel that all their other learnings will come to a naught. So friends, that's why these societies are aging, and we've had a demographic dividend. The demographic dividend is not because of you and me. We are becoming very small families. The demographic dividend is yet coming from the have-nots. It's not coming from the haves. It's coming from have-nots. The haves are probably choosing a son. I think that's the only difference it is. So it's motherhood. Motherhood totally restricts your mobility. And mobility, and that's a choice too. And that's somewhere a compulsion. Yesterday when I was researching, I came across a news clip, a visual, where a very trained, brilliantly trained woman in information technology is sitting on the arm of the sofa, seeing her child play. And she is happy and yet not happy. She's saying, I had to sacrifice, I had to put on hold my brilliantly learned work to see that my child is groomed. But she's not happy. So she is there because that's the only choice she has. Now, why is motherhood a big challenge? Because India does not provide social support systems. It's still family dependent, which means if you're gifted, if you're blessed with a family which is supportive, whether it's a woman's family, whether it's a man's family, you are done. You can drop your child, because our schools are still of the times when women were not working. The schools have no business to close at 2 o'clock. Now schools must not close before 6 o'clock. They should go along with the working time of the mothers. So I think the schools have to change. There are no more mothers and fathers who come and pick up the child. The child needs extracurricular, child needs music, child needs sports and everything, which parents provided, like my parents did. When I was halfway school, halfway went to the tennis court straight away, and mother would join me at the tennis court. That is how, in my time, I was much ahead of time because I was combining both, and my mother and my father were at the tennis court. Now that's a blessing. That's not the available blessing today in today's times. Therefore, who plays that role? Schools play that role. But schools, day boardings, which finish the homework, tell the child your homework is done, go home without the books, now be with your parents and go do what you like to do or do a little reading. That's not the situation at the moment. So I think motherhood, if we are, is the turning point. Then comes the re-entry. Now motherhood also means companies playing roles, flexi timings, giving long maternity leaves or paternity. But in the motherhood, there's another guilt called the daughter guilt. Daughter guilt. The daughter guilt is where daughter feels that she's responsible for the aftercare of the elders in the family. The daughter, whether her own parents, whether it's male parents. So I think these are challenges which we'll discuss further. But research is establishing that a woman leader who makes a success of herself goes, she's born with the medal, she's made a success. But she's done the right, she's into a right marriage, she's made it. She retains her mobility, she's making it. But has she managed her motherhood? With what support systems? Company support systems, neighborhood support systems, social support systems. If she's done it, she's made it. But if any one of them, she doesn't make it, holds her back. None of these things, my friends, affect a man. None of these things affect a man. So we must see a distinction. There may be exceptions to the rule. There are always exceptions, but none of these. That's why the challenge for a woman of mettle, she's groomed well. These are the things which hold her back. This is the liberation which not only Indian corporate leader is looking for, the world over, every woman is looking for all the 4 metals. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kiran. One follow-up question, if I can just get you to talk.
So, how in this the 4Ms world that you define, does a woman who wants to be a leader today sort of get in touch with and nurture her ambition, whatever that ambition is? Because this is you've laid the context for the world that she grows up in. Let's say she wants to be a fighter pilot. You know what she wants to do, whatever it is she wants to do. How does someone get in touch with their ambition and nurture it through the years?
You know what, Anand, it's interesting. You asked me exactly the question I left out, deliberately. Deliberately to let it come in the discussion. That who makes it all the 4? Who makes it all the 4? It depends on how passionate and how ambitious she is. If she's ambitious, she's growing up. Her focus is, I want to be there. That's my ambition. Oh, I think I like to be a mother too. Fine. I think I like to be also a wife, and I have a husband as a companion too. Very good. But I want to be that. I want to retire at that. I want to be known as that. I don't want to be known as somebody's mother. I don't want to die known as someone's mother. I don't want to die as known as somebody Mrs. I want to die as the so-and-so who was a fighter pilot. Now, along with it, I think that is when I said the first word, metal. How strong the passion is in that metal. If that is, then you know what this woman will do? She'll handle all the three. If the marriage hasn't worked, she'll say, thank you very much, out. She will not hang on just because social norms say that. She said, thank you very much. Secondly, she's earning so much that she'll look for right support systems and she'll pay. Even if it's 1/3 or 1/2 of the money going, she will pay. But she will say, I've become a mother now, but my child must get the best education. She will look for the best schooling and the best facility for the child and say the child goes there. So she's being a great mother. And she will let her husband know, while you travel, I also travel. But if you can't manage, then you decide, but I'm going. So what she does is, because her passion is so strong that she's not into breaking marriages, she's into making marriages, not breaking herself. So she doesn't make at the cost of breaking herself. So I think the key therefore is, but I'm not saying there's right and wrong in anything. The needs can change. Needs do change. So I've had enough now. I will just relax. That's what retirement is for. So I think the key here is in the woman. The man is survival. Another woman's mind I've noticed changing. Oh, मेरी एक्स्ट्रा की तो जरूरत नहीं है. वो बहुत है उधर. चलो मैं उसको support करती हूँ. अब मैं आराम भी करती हूँ. There's a change. That's great. Respect that change. So we must respect. But the point is it imposed? Is it imposed or is it her choice? I'm for a woman who's exercising her choices and she enjoys her life.
Thank you so much. I'll just ask one more question. I feel like every time Kiran is saying something, there's sort of one more question, and then we can have the same sort of views from Debjani as well. I'm a little bit scared about asking this question, but I'll ask it anyway. In this world that you just described, assume this is a conference only for men. What is the role of a man in this world, and what is sort of the, how would you view the if you were talking about the role of a man in society in this world, Kiran, how would you describe that?
I would say he must understand that when a woman succeeds, she's doing it for everybody. She's doing it for family. In fact, brilliantly is that when a woman succeeds, she looks at immediate gains for the family and the society, but family gains immediately when the woman succeeds. But when the man succeeds, family may gain, may not gain. That's a big choice. So therefore, once the man understands that when I make my wife, my spouse succeed, I'm succeeding with her. I may take a second position, doesn't matter, but my wife is succeeding, but my whole family is succeeding, and we're going along with it. I think she must stop competing with his wife. I think that's one. But secondly is, there's a concept, at the moment it's been she for he. I think we need to turn it around, called he for she. And in that success is a he for she. If it's been she for he all along, but the day it becomes he for she for he, I think it will be for we together.
I think we might
You've created a new Twitter hashtag. He for she.
It's been a movement, by the way, in the West. He for she has been a movement.
Yeah. Okay, so switching gears to Debjani's journey, and if the same question were posed to you, Debjani, what are you?
Yeah, so all I want to do now is just get up and give Mrs. Bailey a big hug. I mean, she's just super amazing, right? If I may, ma'am, you talked about the 4 M's, right? And then in the end, you talked about the woman's role. I think there's the 5th M, and that's in your last answer, and that's me. It has to be about the passion I bring to the table. It has to be about the conviction I bring to the table. It's not about someone else doing that for me. It cannot be. It absolutely cannot be. So, the 4 M's that ma'am talked about sort of define such a beautiful framework context for all of us. It sort of describes our life journeys in so many ways. And I'm going to use that to share a personal journey with you, my personal journey with you. Like, I see a lot of familiar faces, so I know a lot of you know me and would have heard this before. But for those who don't, I was born into a very large extended family where my father, and I'm, by the way, really glad to see so many men in the room, because if I feel there's one person who plays a huge role in our lives and what we do with it, it's the father. It's absolutely the father. My father was, he sort of pulled in a lot of his sisters who were dependent on him, and so we grew up in a very large extended family where I was the only girl with 12 older brothers. So I was lucky number 13, as Dad called me. And I had a very crazy father. From the day I was born, he believed strongly that I was born to rule the world. So he sort of, and every day his aspirations and ambitions for me would change. So at dinner time, it was all about, this is what you need to do to become the world's best scientist, or this is what you need to do to become the world's best astronaut. So, Ma'am talked about the metal. That metal in me got shaped very early, in fact from the time I was born, and it got shaped by my dad and my mom and my brothers. Because growing up, I never felt I was anything different, or I never felt that I could not do something that they could do. In fact, I remember very young, around 5, 6, something like that, and since 12 boys, it's like a cricket team, right? So they used to always play cricket at home. They were playing cricket, and I used to be the ball fetcher, which I didn't like at all. So I used to stand somewhere in the corner and go run after the balls. I got really fed up one day and went and started sulking, and Dad came and said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I don't like it. I don't like being the ball fetcher." He said, "Then why are you doing it?" So I said, "Because I didn't have a good enough answer," scratching my head and trying to think. And I said, "Can I go and maybe bat or ball?" And he said, something he taught, and we talked about it later. I was too young then. But what he taught me is, I don't need to ask, can I? All I need to ask is, do I really want to do it? Because I may not like batting, or I may not like bowling, but that's fine, right? And I think that's the most important lesson he taught me, that you don't need anyone's permission to do what you want to do. You've got exactly the same brain that your brothers have. You've got exactly, 2 hands, 2 legs, 2 eyes, everything that your brothers have. You decide what you want to do. But you may not want to do everything. So the question is, do you want to do it? And that's the philosophy I have led my life with. And, as we talk about leadership, so I started work 20 years back, in fact, with the company that I'm still with. And I came in with the same philosophies I'd grown up with, that, I'm no less than anyone else in the room. I can do exactly what a guy can do, or what a girl can do. So that was never in my mind. That never played in my mind. I was lucky enough to find a company that also believed in that really believed in that, and that encouraged talent more than gender. So it was all about talent. It was all about results. But there still were challenges. For example, in the initial years, it was perfectly okay. I was the go-getter, and I was rising very fast in the organization because I was very ambitious, I was very aggressive, getting the work done. And then I became a manager. And that's when I realized something had changed. Because as a manager, and as a woman manager, if you are assertive, which means firm, if you are decisive, which means you know your mind and you can take decisions, you're vocal, which means you speak your mind, all of a sudden you become a bad person. And that's the reality. We may not like to admit it, but that's the reality. It happens in the best of the companies, right? All of a sudden it's like, she's not nice anymore. She's changed, right? Or I think most of you have gone through it. I went through it. And when I became a first manager, I was pretty young. So it definitely did worry me. Of course it worries you when everyone is sort of looking at you and saying something's wrong, she's not a nice person anymore. And I was wondering, what am I doing? At a point, you make mistakes when you're young, and I think that was one of the biggest mistakes I made when I look back. At one point, I decided, okay, I'm going to change the way I behave. So I'm going to become, maybe speak less in meetings. I'm going to sort of not put my hand up all the time. I'm going to question less, etc., etc. Guess what? The next performance review, you've lost interest. You've become a bit timid. And I got out of the room and I was like, darn, this is damned if you do and damned if you don't. And where's the solution? Where's the balance? And I think this is where mentorships help. And every leader needs very, very good and very strong mentors. So I was sitting and, chatting with my mentors as to what's going on. Why can't I just figure it out? Why am I, either even this is wrong or that's wrong? Why can't I figure it out? And that's when the person, and it was a he, I said, are you sure you're the problem? And I said, I don't know, it feels like it. And he says, from where I'm sitting, I don't think so. Have you had this conversation with the people you work with? Have you had this conversation with your manager? Would they be having the same conversation with the other male managers? And would they be having the same perception? I mean, a man sits in a meeting and thumps the table, and wow, he's awesome. Try doing it. Just try, one of you try doing it in a meeting. It doesn't have to be men in the room. Even the women in the room will say, oh my God, she is just terrible to work with, right? It happens. And this is where I realized, okay, so the problem is not me. And it is impossible to fake being someone or something you are not. You can fake it in a meeting, you can fake it for a day, maybe if you're a really good actress, you can fake it for a week. But you'll be miserable. You'll be totally miserable. And I was miserable trying to fake it. And that's when I decided that I am going to be who I am. But what was important was to have those conversations, was to have those dialogues, was to set those right expectations with the people I work with, right? And once I started doing that, I think things started changing slowly. It started changing slowly. Today, we are at a space where the people who work with me, I may not be the easiest person to work with, but they know you see what you get. It's pretty much that, right? I'm a very, very direct person, but they've adapted to the style, and I'm much more comfortable with who I am and how I lead. Also, I believe, leadership really has got nothing to do with your designation, your gender, or anything. Leadership to me is very, very simply bringing your best to work, being the best version of yourself that you can be, and bringing the best value to the table for the people who work with you, to your customers, to the company, right? It's about that. It's about really being the best version of yourself. And you can't do that if you're trying to be someone else. You totally can't. You have to be yourself. And you have to ensure that people who are working with you are comfortable with that, right? So it's about a lot of conversations. We still live in a society where it is absolutely not acceptable. In fact, I was recently invited to talk to at a forum where they said, should women be assertive? Why not? What is assertion? What is assertion? Assertion is knowing your mind. Assertion is being firm. Assertion is being able to communicate your point of view with conviction, with belief, with firmness. Why won't we do that? Assertion is not aggression. It's not about standing up and thumping your chest and, fisting someone. That's not assertion. Assertion is just being able to communicate your point of view in a way that you get it through. So why shouldn't women be assertive? Women should be assertive. Women should be ambitious. And women should not apologize for either of those two values. That is what has been my biggest learning in the leadership journey. It's still going on, and I must say right now I'm at a space where I'm enjoying it thoroughly, the ups and downs. And I think these learnings will continue to happen. And I'll just add one more thing, I couldn't resist it. Ma'am talked about, marriage being the very, very important M. Strongly believe that's the most important career decision any one of us make. It absolutely is. It can either take your career up or it can completely bring it to a halt. So with that, I think I'll hand it back to Anand.
Thank you so much.
Can you hear me okay? Thank you so much, ma'am. One question that I was just sitting with as both of you were talking through your journeys is, I think it's often very easy to talk, in hindsight, looking back at a lot of years. It's very easy to say, this is sort of what I've learned, etc., etc. But what I wanted to hear from both of you was maybe take us back to a crossroads that you were at, where you had this tough choice between sort of blending in with societal norms that I'm sure many of you know stories about both of them that reflect this, but in your own words, you had a choice between sort of blending in and following societal norms and following something you were very passionate about. And just describe for us maybe that struggle and how you sort of came out on the right side, or maybe it was the right side at that time, maybe it was not, but it probably is a very impactful decision for you looking back now. What would that be, and if you can describe what was that like for you?
In my life, it was every day like that. So which one do I recall? Every day I had a choice to take the easy path. Every day. Well, it started from my tennis days itself. When I was, as a national tennis champion, getting half, not even half, 1/3 of the costs which the boys got. I got a court number 4 while the boys final got court number 1. It was terrible. I think that's why I'm saying that is what strengthened my mettle within. That if I don't be somebody, I would be put on the last court. I may not even get a court. So I think some of us, and I think it's quite true for all your life, challenges change. There's always an easy way out, but then you have to know what you want. What do you want to be? Who are you? Once that's clear, what's your vision, then you start choosing how do I win over a situation? How do I succeed? I don't necessarily have to beat and defeat. I don't compete with others. Every day, each one of us competes with our own selves. It's what's in our mind. So if I would go back even to my marriage, look at that. When I got married in 1975, my husband and I were tennis friends, and we decided that we should make friends in life. And I knew where I was going. He knew who I was. And but we both believed that in none of those rituals. We didn't believe in. We believed in conservation. We respected our earnings, and we decided we'd just go to a temple, accept each other as man and wife, and invite our parents. 1975, we just went to a temple, and then that's it. And the next day, I was not on honeymoon. I was playing my competitive tennis in Calcutta. That's my social norm. See, that's what I'm doing. And he saw me off. He saw me off. He never said, no, ye to honeymoon period hai, tu ruk ja. But that's not what I chose. So I think these are, but the point is, supposing he said, to main kahungi tu badal gaya, main to ja rahi. So these are the choices you have to make every day. It's a journey of every day, from personal life to then came the motherhood. All right, marriage worked fine. He did not go ahead of me. He stood behind me and became almost invisible at certain stages. And at certain stages when he needed to speak up, he spoke up. And I was quite surprised, what is he saying? But the good thing is that now came the motherhood. It was not planned. That was a mistake in my life. It was not planned. But it was planned only from this point of view. I have a career ahead. this is the time, if I can become a mother, if I have to be a mother, then this is the time before I get my next promotion. And it worked. And it worked. It's a destiny, it worked. Now came with the baby. Well, what do I do with my baby? Who looks after her? She needs care. She's not well. I can't leave her to an orderly. She is a baby and I can't find a male orderly for her. But then I went home. My parents were there and I said, Mom, हम लोग चारों सब जने घर से बाहर चले गए. What are you doing alone here? So I said, Mom, why don't you move over to Delhi? So my parents just moved out of love and respect for being together. I never realized what a turning point it was. They came home. Home became home. I went back as a daughter to work. Now, where is this blessing? Did I ask my husband, can my parents move in? No, it was my home. And I said, this is your home. Your mother is equally. So I loved her. 2 moms at home. So the two moms, because if they have to fight, they fight in my absence. They sort out things in their absence. So, but the point is, when I gave it to my mothers, I ensured they have every support and comfort, that they don't say they're serving my home. They're here sharing my glory, sharing my comfort, sharing the position and pelf of the job. So that's the point. I never made them homekeepers, but they became part of success. Whether it was my mother-in-law, that's the way. But why? It was all moving on. मैं job नहीं छोड़ूंगी, job नहीं sacrifice करूंगी. 24 घंटे मांग रहा है काम, 24 घंटे दूंगी. I won't compromise or say I have to be running home because there's somebody waiting. Somebody's waiting. Love takes me back, but I will stay on work as long as it demands. Nobody's going to say, because you got now a child back home, you got to leave. No, I did not leave work to when it demanded me till the last moment. So the message repeatedly was proving my mettle, not proving it for others, but living up. See, the more grounded, the more conviction, as you mentioned, the more entrenched you are, the more authentic you are in what you want, it brings a natural response to a certain situation. Then came the lot of challenges in my career where I could have taken a back seat, let things happen. No way. It's my duty to be ahead. I will be ahead. It's my duty to be a follower. I'll be a follower. It's my duty to assert. I will assert. It's my duty to listen. I will listen. But I went by my instinct. I could be right or wrong, but I never gave up. There were a lot of situations. There was even a suggestion once when I was doing VIP security during Prime Minister's time, and one of my superintendents said, Kiran, and I was in a Pathan suit like this, and he said, how about you wearing a sari? Sari on this job? I said, sari? So I said, तो मैंने अपने आप को बोला, जिस दिन मैं साड़ी पहन गई तो ये नौकरी छोड़नी पड़ेगी, तो मैं भागूंगी कहाँ से, किसको उठा के भागूंगी? And I thought that was a very male chauvinist. I rejected it all right, but I didn't say anything to him. Do you mean to say I got back into a sari? I stayed in the dress, which made me fly, because that is what was the need of the hour. So what I'm giving you the simplest of the solutions, without being influenced कि मेरा senior ये कह रहा है. I just did what my duty demanded in the most ethical and authentic way I could, whether it was personal relationships or whether it's professional. But look, these are the little messages. It wasn't going इधर से धकाया उधर बह गए, इधर से धकाया उधर बह गए, इधर धकाया मैं खड़ी रही, इधर धकाया मैं खड़ी रही, क्योंकि मुझे वहां जाना है. That's the point. So I think in the end, finally, it's what you want to do.
Thank you so much. I think if we can turn it over to Debjani, but I know there are a lot of folks in the room who are entrepreneurs themselves, who are starting businesses, who are leaders in companies. I was curious to hear Debjani's message for them, because I'm sure they are sort of probably in the starting point or the midpoint of their journey, and they're running through a lot of these trade-offs. So I'm kind of curious what Debjani's message is in terms of the challenge.
I think every lady in this room will tell you that we struggle with those choices, as ma'am said, every day in our life, every second of our life, and it's always a choice between personal and professional, right? I'll quote one of my mentors, who's also the ex-president of FICCI, Naina Lal Kidwai. She said it beautifully. She said, we always hold 2 balls, we juggle 2 balls. One is a rubber ball and one is a crystal ball, right? And the rubber ball, even if it falls, it'll bounce back and you can get it back in the air. But if the crystal ball falls, it shatters. You have to, at every point in life, decide which is the rubber ball, which is the crystal ball. And it can change. right? At some points in life, the family becomes the rubber ball. Happens very often. Okay, I have this really important project, guys. Just stay out of my way, and leave me alone, and I have to ensure I see this through. And there are times when the family will become the crystal ball, right? So you really, I think that's the balancing act that we have to, because we are still, people still look at women as the primary caregiver, and that's in our nature. I don't think we'll move away from that. We have to figure out which is the crystal ball at which point in time, and then we have to ensure we really don't drop it, because if we drop it, that harm cannot be undone. And I think my only advice here is, once you figured it out, stop apologizing for it. Stop being guilty about it. If there's one thing I wish we could change in all of us, starting with me, it's the whole guilt trap that we so much love. We love it. We're like drama queens. We love that guilt trap. We hold on to it and we won't let it go. Why? This is where there's a lesson that we really, and there are lots of lessons, Anand, we need to learn from men. But if there's one lesson we really need to learn from the way the guys do it, is making those trade-offs and then making peace with the trade-offs you've made. Why do we have to always feel guilty about not being the perfect mother, not being the perfect wife, not being the perfect daughter, or whatever it is? We can't be. There is no such thing as perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect woman, or a perfect man for that matter. There really isn't. Right?
Unless you wear Raymond.
Anand is an exception. Yeah, and we have to stop beating ourselves up. And frankly, that's my advice. Stop beating yourself up, because more than 50% of this battle we are fighting is in our heads. It really is. If we can just switch off that voice and we can make peace with the decisions that we have made, and we can believe that those decisions don't make us a bad person, half the battle is won. So my advice is, just, you have to make trade-offs. There's no one in this room, men or women, who've had it all. I'd love to see your hand up. It's just not possible. There's no one. We have to make our trade-offs, and when we do, we have to make peace with it and move on.
Okay, great. I think, we have, around 15 minutes or so, 15, 20 minutes, 10 minutes. So we'll just open it up for questions. And I think one thing that we would appreciate is if you can keep the question really brief, so we can get it back to them and try and cover as many questions as possible in 10, 15 minutes.
I like the word, give it back to them.
Yeah.
Scared of getting back. Yeah.
Hi, good morning, panel. So my question is for all of you.
Switch on your mic.
Yeah, I want to know that who or what is the greatest inspiration in your lives?
Who? My father. I would have been nothing without him, honestly. Everything I am, the beliefs, the belief in myself, everything comes from him.
Okay.
That's my biggest inspiration.
Nice. Kiran ma'am?
I can't say my parents, but I would say the environment I create for myself every day.
Okay.
I create it. I'll give you one recent quote which I live with. There was a Zen master who was asked that you're always very happy. What is the secret of your happiness? He said, every morning I get up and I have a choice. Do I make it a hell or a heaven? And I said, I choose heaven, and then I go about making it a heaven. So if you choose to make every day a heaven, I think you're making your inspirational environment. Aren't you making this inspirational for each other? So what has inspired you? A book inspired you, a father, of course, parents all of us made the metal, no doubt. But what after the father? Every day is to be lived. So create heaven out of every day by creating your own environment every day, and be conscious of the fact, whatever am I doing, am I moving towards hell or choose to go to heaven? Go be heaven, create heaven.
Meena Wilson from the Genpact Center for Women's Leadership. Thanks for being so inspirational. My question is, how do we change the image of how leaders are supposed to behave in a society that is pretty autocratic? What I mean by that is, a leader is supposed to pound, yell, prod, poke, and women are just as effective without pounding, prodding. They can be just as effective by listening, encouraging, supporting. So we can achieve results in a different way, but we're not perceived as leaders because the image is, this is how a leader is supposed to behave. Like that, So this is my question. How do we start to change our ideas?
I think you're confusing it with a political leader.
Even business.
And that's why they're wrongly called leaders. They're political men and women who are assuming leadership positions by occupation. They're occupying people.
Yeah.
Occupying. They're not leaders. If they were leaders, people would have loved them. But you look at the profession trust, politics comes much last. Are they leaders? No way. So this is wrong. It's only by usurpation in position. That's not leadership. So as Devyani very rightly said, don't be what others, be yourself.
And I think that perception is changing. It's definitely, think of the financial sector. And if I ask you to name a leader, you're going to name Shikha, or you're going to name Chanda, or you're going to name Arundhati, one of them. They stand out. None of them are standing there pounding and yelling and, they have their own styles and they know how to own it, right? It's changing and we have accepted them. They are some of the most respected leaders in this country. We have absolutely accepted them. So it's changing. We just need more women on top who are going to bring in that new style.
I think what you rightly said, that we need more women on top. But for that, I would suggest that Sita should also hold not only women entrepreneurship or empowering women, men needs to be empowered more, because it is very difficult for a man to accept that the woman is at top. As Kiran Bedi also said, and you also said, and it has happened with me also, that my father was a supporting pillow for us. I'm also a national medalist, gold medalist, and I know what goes there. So he was able to empower me as a woman. But did the same metal went into the men? No. And because it did not went into the men, it is difficult for a man to accept that the woman can go ahead of him. A woman can also share the limelight. It could be that he can be known as a husband of this woman. And that is something which men cannot easily take in. So I think we should also start a movement of empowering and educating men, that women can also lead and they can be also on the top.
Sorry, just to add here, because she said we should do this for men as well. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
Take a mic if you want.
I'm loud enough. My mother always says everybody in the house can hear me. So it's exactly why the Angel Summit platform, when you see so many men come be a part of it, is to have a meaningful dialogue and create that solution-centered discussion. So we're all aware of what's going on. So, it's not a one-sided thing. It's to break the bias. It's to bridge the gap, but not perpetuate bias.
Yeah.
So I think there was also one question. Yeah.
But if I can just add one thing, and I'll give you a personal example. I'm having the same conversation with a friend at home, right? And she's talking about, the men have to change, the men have to change. She's a mother. She has a little boy and a little girl. And she's sort of having that conversation, and then suddenly she looks at the kids, and they were doing something with a Lego set or whatever. They were trying to break it or whatever they were trying to do. And she tells the girl, wo mat karo, bhaiya ko karne do, tum chhod do, or some, And I said, you know what, just help me connect the dots between your two sentences. If the men has to change, the change has to start with us. We are the ones raising the sons. Let's raise the sons.
I agree totally with you. When I'm driving, I have two sons. When I'm driving, I never overspeed. I never jump a light. Only for a reason, because I want to show them it's not correct to do that. So the examples have to start from home, and I totally agree with you on that.
So let's take one question here. sir.
So I don't have a question, but I just want to add something that's really important. So I can reduce your guilt of mother and all that part. So that's really important. So there was a research by Harvard University, and the research says that the mothers who are working produce more successful sons. And I am very fortunate to connect it to one of that mother, and she's the mother of the Suzanne, Annie. There are 3 daughters, and one is the CEO of YouTube, other is the founder of 23andMe, and one is a researcher. And she has also said that once your mother is working, then there are some struggles which the child has to face, and those struggles make the child grow strong, and then they can develop slowly and gradually. So it is not a guilt. Maybe if you are working somewhere, you're doing some of your job, then you are actually helping your child. It's not there should be no guilt for that, because all those things get imbibed in your children. So
thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Okay, question over there, and then we'll probably take 2-3 questions over here. We'll take 2-3 questions over here, and then we'll probably have to wrap up. So there's one question.
Good morning, panel.
Yeah.
I have actually 2 questions. The first question is that you're saying that you have to be very affirmative, you have to be very bold as a woman, you have to have mettle in yourself. But in a real life situation, there are challenges on personal front, there are challenges on professional front. It is not necessary that you emerge as a winner in every situation. So how do you deal with the failure? We should be, as a leader or as a woman, one should be open to dealing with failures as well. And the second question is that you're saying you have to lead from the front, you have to direct leadership. But what about supportive leadership? You know, there are invisible leaders who support their team, they empower their team, they motivate their team members, and the team succeeds. The leader automatically succeeds. So is it necessary that a leader has to lead from the front?
Sure.
That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we can just take 1 or 2 questions from here
As well, any questions from this? Yeah.
Now, apart from the word female, something more is coming up, and that is she-male. So in an era where there is a she-male word that is being coined as emerging, there are certain situations which I have faced under 30, sitting on the board of a listed company, and then people say, a woman. So that itself is a kind of a struggle at this point of a time. So you would have probably faced a similar kind of struggles in your own respective lives. How did you cope up with these things?
Sure. One more question? Yeah.
So how do you get over the tag of being rebellious? At certain stage you have to overcome certain milestones in your life. So like I'm a postgraduate right now. So like there is this thing, like you talked about marriage. It's gonna change a lot of things in your life. It's gonna be very important for your career. So if you stand up for yourself, people start telling you she's little rebellious. So how do you tackle this tag?
Okay. Couple more questions. Any questions from here? Okay.
My question is actually for you, Anand, because the ladies have spoken a lot already. Do you think corporate India is actually doing enough as far as women population is concerned, in ensuring that the participation rate of women employees is much more than what it is right now, in single digits or possibly lower double digits? So question for you, Anand.
You should really answer that.
Thank you. One last question, and then we'll take all the questions. Any questions from somewhere here? Okay, great. Sorry, ma'am. Let's take one last question, and then I think we have 5 questions.
This is for Kiran ma'am. Kiran ma'am, I want to meet you. How I can?
Right now after this event.
one question.
Straight away after this event. Don't delay it. Otherwise you won't get me.
Okay, so maybe we can just start with the 2 tags, the she-male tag, the rebellious tag.
Sorry, I have a small point. So, I'm Vivek. Is this a bias when a father looks at a daughter's role, as Kiran said, Devyani also said that, father is always happy. So, when it comes to a wife, is this a problem? Like it's the same person looking at 2 different roles with a bias. Is this the case?
It's a really good question. Do you want to take that?
Yeah, I actually have
I mean, I haven't seen that. I mean, personally, my father would be happy to cook on weekends so that, you know, mom could do whatever she wanted to do. And my mom's been a teacher all her life and has had the time to do whatever she wanted to do. So I don't think I think it's what's inside you. That, you know, you can't play act or you can't, it's what's inside you. If you really believe in empowerment, you're going to believe it for whoever is in your life, no matter what role they play. So, and if you don't, you'll fake it for one, but you can't fake it for too long. Maybe it's going to be difficult. Good. You know, I wanna just quickly address the failure point. I think that was a brilliant question. Failure is part and parcel of your daily life. It happens to all of us. It happens all the time. And it's one of the most important lessons, and I think Anand will also agree, in the corporate world, it's one of the most important learning opportunities that you get, right? And another mentor of mine always says, when you fall, you will fall. And when you fall, fall forward so that you can learn. When you get up, you can learn, and you're already a little ahead, and you can move ahead with that. We do, and I think we women do it a little bit more than men. We beat ourselves up a bit too much about the failures. There is no reason. As long as we are learning, failure doesn't define who we are. Success doesn't define who we are, right? It's all a part of the journey. It's all a part of the learning. So whether you're a leader or not, failure is extremely important. It is going to happen, and you have to handle it in the best way possible so that you learn from it, right?
I believe we are in a roundup right now. So I think the roundup which has struck my mind right now is to finally emerge as persons, not as women and men. Emerge as persons. And it's in the end you will be a woman but as great human being. I think that's the key. We need to all emerge. And if you noticed, all of us women who've succeeded well, we have not succeeded. We happen to be women. We look women. We're very beautiful women, you know, in mind, body, spirit, whatever. But we've emerged as persons because we are not biased. We look at needs. So I think in the end, now how do you emerge as persons? I'll probably address some of your questions. Is to constantly do a SWOT analysis of your own self. Work on your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. Every one of us. And you talking about वो कहेंगे rebellious, वो कहेंगे ये, अरे हर एक कोई आपको कुछ ना कुछ तो कहेगा. कहने दीजिए, उसका काम है कहना. लेकिन आप अपना SWOT करो और अपना रेगुलरली SWOT रखो और अपनी वीकनेसेस को स्ट्रेंथ्स बनाते जाओ, स्ट्रेंथ्स को मेंटेन करो, थ्रेट्स को अंडरस्टैंड करो कि ये थ्रेट मुझे एक्सेप्टेबल है, ये मेरा बनाया हुआ है कि किसी ने इंपोज किया है. So I think any human being who, whether man or a woman, works on SWOT continues to move up and not decline.
So I'll just take the one question on, you know, is corporate India doing enough for? I think the biggest theme that we've been saying here is probably the answer. I don't think corporate India can, you know, do much by itself. As much as, you know, the government can't empower people to do what they want to do. I think it really goes back to what Kiran was saying. I think if folks figure out what their passion is, what their dreams are, I think in a way the environment comes together to support that. I think one thing that happens is when we get to the place that we want to get to, there's actually no big announcement that happens, right? There's no big drum roll. I think India is probably one of the few countries where, you know, the president has been a Muslim and the prime minister has been a Sardar at the same time, right? Remember that both of them are minorities in most countries, but we've elected, you know, a minority to both these roles at the same time. And so I think when minorities get an opportunity to do leadership roles, you know, whether it's religious minorities or, you know, men versus women, unfortunately there is no sort of dramatic drum roll when it happens. So when we've made it, sometimes we don't celebrate it as much. You know, I would actually say it's quite incredible that, you know, America has been run by, you know, someone who used to belong to a community that was slaves, you know, about 150 years ago, right? So I don't think we stop and celebrate when, you know, these big changes happen. Similarly, I think, you know, Devjani made the point that the three largest banks in India, which are three of the most successful companies in India, are run by women. And I don't think anyone looks at them as women leaders. They just look at them as really incredible leaders. And I think their leadership journeys were probably as challenging as any other leadership journey. It probably had a different set of challenges because they were women. But I think any leadership journey, I think, has a set of challenges also. I don't think I'm sure if you ask the men if their leadership journey was easy, they'd have a different set of challenges, right? I think to Kiran's point, sometimes she started by saying that about choices, right? I think sometimes not having a choice is like you can't say, I am going to do, like if you want to be a cook and if you're a man, I think it's not easy in India to, say I'm going to be a cook, right? Like someone's going to come to you and say, Bawarchi banne wale ho, that also is breaking a stereotype, right? So I think breaking all of these stereotypes is very, very hard. The one very interesting story I wanted to share, maybe, and then I just wanted to summarize some of the takeaways from the panel, is, at Snapdeal we have a brand head who came from Fair and Lovely, right? So if you probably did the most trusted brands of India, after Colgate, the #1 brand that women trust in India is Fair and Lovely, right? So this lady ran the Fair and Lovely brand for 8 years. And so it was very interesting to sort of just hear her talk about, I don't think anyone understands women really, but if there's someone who's come very close to understanding what women want, it's probably the brand director of Fair and Lovely. And so it was very interesting to hear her journey over 8 years, right? So she was saying the year that she started running the brand, always, they were trying to say, if you use Fair and Lovely, you will get X. Right? And X always changed over the last 8 years or 9 years. 8 years ago, 9 years ago, apparently when they would talk to consumers, most of whom, if not all of whom, were women, the answer would always be, I want to marry someone of my dreams, right? So all the ads of Fair and Lovely would be, I want to marry someone of my dreams. I think then it became, I want to be attractive. I don't want to necessarily get married. I just want to be attractive. I think then it evolved to a place where they wanted to have a career, and Fair and Lovely now helps me look good at work, right? So I think now the most recent ad, it says I want to make a tough choice, and this helps me make a very tough choice in my life. And the most recent one was I want to live in the chaos and confusion of my life and sit with it. And it's okay, like I don't want to make a decision right now, but I want to be empowered. So I think it's actually quite amazing, how far we have come. That's why, when we were starting the panel, I was saying it's very easy to paint this in a lot of negativity, but I think, forums like this, a lot of efforts that leaders have done. Debjani talked about mentors. I think it's probably the most effective form of leadership and supportive leadership that men and women can do. And none of those mentors get named, none of them get much credit. It's actually time away, but they're contributing to helping leaders. I think it's great that so many leaders have made it on a Saturday to talk about this topic. I think there is no one magic answer, I don't think, and numbers sometimes belie this. But I think it's very important that constantly we keep talking about it, because the answer itself is different, right? Like today they're probably starting tech companies, tomorrow they'll be starting social entrepreneurship companies. The challenges will be different. So I don't think there's sort of one answer and everyone is going to go for that. So I think that's probably how I would view is corporate India doing enough for this.
Let me help Anand a little. I believe corporates are not doing enough. Anand, they're not doing enough. They can do plenty more, because there's a very big dropout at the middle level. That's why the pyramid becomes very small. There's a very large base of almost 1/3 of women in the IT sector. Finally, you become 5% or 3%. Why? Because a lot of middle level dropout because of motherhood. Basically, lack of mobility, marriage, all these facts, lack of support systems. What has happened in Tata Sons recently, I read 2 days ago, there was an editorial in the Economic Times which said Tata Sons is giving long flexi hours, long maternity leave, long for elder care. And then in the end, it criticized the Tata Sons. It's got too lopsided. Why don't you balance it with the men? उनको दे रहे हो 6 महीने, इनको दो 6 महीने आदमियों को, ताकि वो fathers भी जाएं. Why can't sons look after their parents also? Why are you letting women go and letting them drop out? Why don't you say, we will give you first 6 months when it's a feeding stage for the mother, and then paternity goes to the man, right? 6 months you go home, let the woman come back. See, so that is called the balance, which I feel it's getting lopsided. It's getting lopsided. Why? It is the men who deciding at the top. It's they who deciding and saying, let women go. That means you are actually fixing the gender role more, stereotyping more, that only the woman needs to go back to the child and only the woman can look after elderly parents. Why can't the man, father, go back and look after the next 6 months of the child? Why can't the son go back to look after the boy? So they could have policies like this. I think yet our corporate policies are still very boxed. They're still very stereotyped. They don't provide the proper support systems. They are, I believe, they're overusing the men. Let's be fair to them. I think they're overstretching men, and men work long, long hours, which deters women because they want men who will work 18 hours a day, 24 hours a day, and women can't work 24 hours a day, therefore they drop out. I think it's being unfair. Why don't you balance even working hours? I think that's another key. So I think corporates need to do much more, Anand. I hope you could set the trend.
You know, I'll just add one more thing. I think to the question earlier, I think this will only change if there are more women on the top. I think if there are more.
No. 1 minute. Even one man at the top can change. Come on.
I'm saying, Kiran, you know,
I understand that, but listen, let's not wait for that. Then it will be 20 years of wait. You can change now. Those men must change policies now and balance the policies now. Then you will not. You see, the middle-level women will not drop out just because they have become mothers. I think being mothers is a great investment for mankind. And having good children, good parenting is very important asset for the nation. Otherwise, nation is what a generation produces, and a healthy generation. So therefore, men at the top who are the CEOs of the companies now must change now. I think just as they, and I think that thinking has to change. Why don't you set the trend? Don't wait. Don't wait.
Okay, I think that's
Sorry, Anand, just one point. I know we are late, but just one point. I think what corporate India really needs to aspire now is to become absolutely gender neutral. That's the word. And we are just learning how to embrace women, right? We're just so we're sort of struggling with that too. But I think what we have the opportunity to leapfrog, because we don't have to follow the steps. And I think the leadership tone, as ma'am said, is so important. But what we have to focus on is absolutely a gender neutral environment where talent is recognized above all, right? And it can come in any shape, it can come in any form with any practices. And to me, that's the dream, and I think that's what we have to aim towards.
Just one sentence. Women go home, men need to be sent home.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You know, I think this is couldn't have asked for a better way to end the panel. Thank you. So I think all three of us are probably going to stay for a little while, but in the interest of time, we can probably wrap the panel up.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Anand. You are an excellent moderator. Please put your hands together for Anand Chandrasekaran. Debjani, Kiran, thank you so much for joining us this morning and for sharing so much of your personal lives and learnings. I request all the three speakers to please step forward to the front part of the stage, please, for the photo.